Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm sharing some quick and easy hacks to give your brain an instant power up. If you're feeling foggy, sluggish, or just need a little extra boost to get through your day, these brain hacks are for you. Let's dive right in. First up, water. It might sound basic, but hydration is absolutely key to brain function. Our brains are about 75% water, so if you're not drinking enough, you're definitely not performing at your best. Next time you're feeling tired or unfocused, take a moment to hydrate. It can make a world of difference. Next, move your body. Physical activity, even for just a few minutes, can wake up your brain and get the blood flowing. Try a 30-second burst of jumping jacks, a quick walk around the room, or even stretching. It stimulates your brain and increases alertness. So, get moving and watch your focus improve instantly. Another hack, deep breathing. Taking just 3 to 5 deep breaths helps reduce stress and sharpens your concentration. Try this with me. Breathe in deeply for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. Repeat that a few times and notice how much clearer your mind feels. It's like hitting a mental reset button. Hack number 4, music. Put on some instrumental or ambient music to boost focus. Classical, lo-fi beats, or even nature sounds can help your brain stay in a productive state. Just make sure it's something without lyrics so you don't get distracted. And finally, don't underestimate the power of a power nap. Even just 10 to 15 minutes can revitalize your mind and give you the energy to tackle your tasks with more clarity. But avoid napping for too long. Keep it short to avoid feeling groggy. A few years ago, there was a young woman named Emily who was constantly struggling with her productivity. She was smart, driven, and had big goals, but no matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't seem to stay focused long enough to make real progress. Her mornings were filled with distractions, her afternoons were filled with uncertainty, and by the evening, she'd feel like she hadn't achieved anything at all. It was frustrating, but what bothered her the most was that she knew she had the potential to do so much more. She just couldn't figure out how to unlock that hidden power within herself. One day, after another long, unproductive day, Emily sat down with a cup of tea, feeling exhausted and defeated. That's when she remembered something she had read about brain hacks, simple tricks that could boost focus and productivity in just a few minutes. She had always been a bit skeptical about quick fixes, but she was desperate and decided to give it a try. Little did she know, this decision would completely change the way she approached her work, her habits, and her life. The first thing Emily learned was the power of hydration. She had heard it 1,000 times before, but she never really took it seriously. She decided to test it out by drinking a full glass of water every morning before starting her day. The results were surprising. Within minutes, she felt more alert and less sluggish. Her mind felt clearer, and she noticed that her thoughts weren't as foggy as usual. That one small change made a huge difference in her morning routine. Next, Emily read about how even a short burst of physical activity could boost mental clarity. She wasn't much of an athlete, but she decided to give it a try. Every afternoon, after a few hours of work, she would stand up and do a quick 5-minute routine, jumping jacks, stretching, and a few squats. At first, it felt awkward and out of place, but within days, she started to notice a real difference. Her focus sharpened, and she no longer felt like she was running on empty by 3 p.m. It was as if her brain was getting a fresh burst of energy each time she moved her body. Around the same time, Emily learned about mindful breathing. She'd always been skeptical of meditation, thinking it wasn't for her, but the idea of taking a few moments to reset her mind seemed like a harmless experiment. So every morning, before diving into work, she would take 5 deep breaths, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, and exhale for 4. It wasn't much, but it gave her a moment of calm before the chaos of the day started. Over time, she noticed that her stress levels dropped and she was able to approach each task with more patience and focus. Then, Emily discovered the impact of music. She had always loved listening to music, but she never thought of it as a tool for focus. She found that listening to instrumental or ambient music while working helped drown out distractions and kept her in a state of deep concentration. Whether it was classical music, lo-fi beats, or nature sounds, she found that certain types of music helped her enter a flow state, where time seemed to disappear as she worked. This small change made a big impact, especially during long work sessions. The final breakthrough came when Emily started taking short naps during the day. She had always thought naps were for lazy people, but as her schedule became more packed, she realized that a quick power nap was sometimes just what her brain needed. She started setting an alarm for 15 minutes, and when it went off, she would take a nap. At first, she was skeptical that such a short nap would make a difference, but it worked wonders. She would wake up feeling more refreshed and ready to take on the next challenge with renewed energy and focus. It wasn't just about these individual hacks, it was about how they all came together. Emily soon realized that each of these small changes was part of a larger puzzle. Drinking enough water, moving her body, breathing deeply, listening to the right music, and napping weren't just random tricks. They were all ways to take care of her brain and give it the fuel it needed to stay sharp. By combining these practices, she was able to create a daily routine that didn't just boost her productivity, but also her mental clarity and overall well-being. As the weeks went on, Emily noticed that her once scattered, unfocused mind was becoming more organized. She found herself working more efficiently, tackling tasks with ease, and achieving her goals with a sense of fulfillment. She had learned that, while there wasn't a magic formula for success, there were simple, practical habits she could implement every day to keep her mind in top shape. The transformation was gradual, but after a few months, she felt like a completely different person, more confident, more productive, and more in control of her life. And though Emily had come a long way, she knew the journey was far from over. There would always be new challenges to face, new goals to strive for, but she had discovered the power of these small hacks, and they had already made all the difference in the world. As Emily continued her journey, she began experimenting with even more brain-boosting strategies. She learned that taking cold showers in the morning could shock her system into a state of heightened alertness. The cold water acted as a stimulant, sending waves of energy through her body and making her feel wide awake, even when she was running on little sleep. At first, it was uncomfortable, but after a few days, she started to embrace the shock factor. It became one of the most powerful ways to start her day. Another game changer came when she discovered the importance of regular breaks. Emily had always been the type to sit at her desk for hours on end, pushing through work without a second thought. But after reading about the Pomodoro technique, which encourages working in short bursts followed by brief breaks, she decided to give it a try. By setting a timer for 25 minutes of focused work, followed by a 5-minute break, she found that her productivity soared. These short intervals kept her mind fresh and prevented burnout. The 5-minute breaks became sacred moments when she would stretch, step outside, or simply close her eyes and reset before diving back into work. Emily also realized that reflection played a huge role in her mental clarity. At the end of each day, she started taking a few minutes to reflect on her accomplishments and challenges. It wasn't about beating herself up over mistakes, but rather taking the time to assess what worked and what didn't. By doing this, she could make small adjustments for the following day and gradually refine her approach to work. This practice of reflection not only boosted her productivity, but also gave her a sense of accomplishment, even on days when things didn't go as planned. Throughout her journey, Emily came to understand that these brain-boosting strategies were not about quick fixes or magical results. They were about building sustainable habits that she could rely on for the long haul. Every change she made, no matter how small, had a compounding effect. Over time, these small shifts added up to a new way of thinking and living. Her mind felt sharper, her energy levels were higher, and she was finally working at the level she had always known she was capable of. One evening, Emily sat at her desk reflecting on how far she had come. She was amazed at how these simple changes had transformed not just her work but her entire outlook on life. She realized that the power of her brain didn't lie in some magical pill or a secret formula. It was in her ability to take care of it, to nurture it, and to use it wisely. The more she treated her mind as a valuable asset, the more it rewarded her with clarity, focus, and the energy to tackle anything that came her way. It was in that moment that she knew she had found something far more valuable than just a productivity hack. She had found a deeper connection to herself and a better understanding of what it took to truly thrive. The journey, as it turned out, was about so much more than productivity. It was about creating a life that felt purposeful, balanced, and full of potential. As Emily's journey continued, she found herself more and more committed to discovering new ways to optimize her brain and her life. What started with a few simple hacks gradually grew into a lifestyle that she could rely on every day. She wasn't just focused on productivity anymore. She had learned that maintaining balance was just as important. Emily became more in tune with her own needs, recognizing when to push herself and when to rest. The more she listened to her body and mind, the more powerful she felt. But there were still areas she wanted to improve, areas she hadn't fully explored yet. One day, while researching new productivity strategies, Emily stumbled upon the concept of mindful eating. She had always considered food as fuel, but she never thought about how her eating habits might be impacting her brain. That night, instead of scarfing down dinner in front of her computer, she decided to eat her meals slowly and mindfully. She paid attention to every bite, savoring the flavors and focusing on the textures. She realized that the simple act of being present while eating actually improved her digestion and helped her feel more energized. But the benefits didn't stop there. She started to feel more connected to the food she was eating, making healthier choices without even thinking about it. It was as though her body and mind had become more synchronized. The more Emily delved into mindfulness, the more she began to realize how often her mind was in overdrive, constantly racing and jumping from one thought to the next. While her focus had definitely improved through her daily habits, she still found herself getting overwhelmed by the sheer number of tasks she had to accomplish. So, Emily took things a step further. She started practicing meditation regularly. At first, it was difficult to quiet her mind. It seemed like every time she closed her eyes, 1,000 thoughts would come rushing in. But she didn't give up. Every day, for just 10 minutes, she sat in a quiet corner and focused on her breath. Over time, the constant chatter in her mind began to subside, and she experienced moments of true stillness. Meditation, she soon discovered, wasn't just about sitting in silence. It was about learning to observe her thoughts without getting caught up in them. This practice gave her a new perspective on her emotions, her fears, and even her goals. She realized that when she was meditating, she wasn't running away from her thoughts or trying to suppress them. She was simply allowing them to come and go without judgment. It was liberating, and in a world filled with noise and distractions, she started to appreciate the power of being present. But meditation wasn't the only mental exercise Emily incorporated into her daily routine. She also took up journaling as a way to clear her mind and track her progress. Every evening before bed, she would write down her thoughts, feelings, and anything she had learned that day. Sometimes she reflected on what went well, and other times she wrote about her challenges and what she could improve. This practice became a safe space for her to express herself, and she found it incredibly helpful for processing emotions and organizing her thoughts. As Emily's confidence grew, she realized that the physical and mental changes she had undergone also had a ripple effect on other areas of her life. She became more present in her relationships, more patient with her family and friends, and more compassionate toward herself. She realized that all the little brain hacks she had implemented were not only making her more productive, but they were also improving her emotional intelligence. She had learned how to manage stress more effectively, communicate more clearly, and approach challenges with a sense of calm. The small shifts in her routine had rippled outward, affecting her entire perspective on life. Despite all of these positive changes, Emily still had moments of doubt. There were days when she felt tired, overwhelmed, or unsure of herself. It was easy to fall back into old habits and forget about the strategies that had worked so well for her. But she had learned an important lesson. Consistency didn't mean perfection. There would be days when things didn't go according to plan, and that was okay. Emily had learned to accept that some days were just going to be harder than others, and that it didn't mean she was failing. The real key to her success was in her ability to adapt, to stay flexible, and to keep going, even when things felt tough. One morning, as Emily stood in front of her mirror getting ready to start another day, she looked at herself with a sense of pride. She wasn't the same person she had been months ago. The woman staring back at her was more grounded, more focused, and more at peace with who she was. She had unlocked a deeper understanding of herself, and it wasn't because of some secret formula or overnight transformation. It was the result of small, consistent changes done with intention and care. And so Emily continued her journey, not as someone desperately trying to fix herself, but as someone learning to embrace her own potential. Every day was an opportunity to grow, to fine-tune her habits, and to step into a version of herself that was constantly evolving. As she moved forward, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she had the tools and the mindset to face them with confidence, clarity, and grace.